You want to
Hey,
go and just go, yeah, start?
sure. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, I'm Morgan here with Arna, and this is Creative Leaders Unplugged.
Yeah. Um, Brought to you by
That's right.
Future Skills
Yes.
Academy.
Academy.
Yeah, that's the plug. We have to keep saying that.
Remind ourselves.
Remember to remind ourselves. Yeah.
It's so much
How
a part of my being, I forget to announce it now. Mhm.
yeah, how was this conversation with Christoph? Because today we have Christof Zürn as a guest on the show. He has his own company, Creative Companion, and he is a big his big thing is music thinking.
Mhm.
So at least in my mind, music thinking is that's his sort of his brand,
Signature.
his
Yeah.
being, his signature. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And this conversation didn't go how I expected it to go, but it was delightful.
What did you expect?
Because I've met Christoph one other time before, and that was
Ah, yeah,
how I knew him was through the musical thinking.
right.
And so then when he starts talking, I was like, okay, well, this will clearly be the thing that he starts with. It wasn't until the very end you're like, yeah, but isn't music something you do? And he goes, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
there wasn't there this thing, and but it's sort of because it's so much part of him. I think it's just that it's there all the time.
yeah.
If you kind of so it's yeah,
So
interesting. But
yeah.
my takeaway from it is that again, so we're doing these interviews with all these people, these amazing people, but they're very diverse
Mhm.
in their background and where they came from, et cetera, et cetera. But again, there is again a theme of someone who's a little bit of an outsider, a little bit of a maverick kind of.
Mhm.
So it's not the usual person in the. So to us maybe, but in so coming from a craftsman family, a family business. So it's interesting that these are people, they go their own way, and
Yes.
also so Christoph also he kind of he chose his own way, even though the family business was kind of calling him like, no, you have to, this is your
Yeah.
future. You go like, no, I'm going to go in my own way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think it's also really interesting because you don't always know what next step will be. It's not like he decided at 18, this is going to be my path for the rest of my life. He just kind of
Yeah,
kept taking the steps and they just kind of
yeah,
kept repeating themselves to him. And yeah.
exactly, yeah. But because we don't know what steps are out there it's going to happen. So I
No.
think if you, I mean, maybe it happens for some people, but I think most people, when you go through life, things happen,
Hmm.
and it's yeah, right. So and it's this idea of especially when we talked about music, but it's this idea of being an improviser, meaning that and a listener, and so
Yeah.
listening. So it wasn't so much about music, but it was more about how do you listen,
Hmm.
because we didn't really talk about this specifically, but Christoph's idea is that in a process, so in a design thinking process, it seems like you're only listening in the beginning, right? You're doing your research and you're listening to your consumers or what have you, stakeholders, what have you, and his kind of take on listening when and doing research with his music thinking is that you listen continuously. Like he said, you can't stop listening. Your ears are always open. So listening is continuously, because that's how when you play music together, in an
Hmm.
orchestra or a band or what have you, you are continuously listening to each other. That never stops. So
Yeah.
that's sort of like a connecting thing to all the steps in whatever process you have, is you
Hmm.
be conscious of, are you listening to each other? And so this is why the listening part was so, yeah. Anyway, again, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
important.
And it's really, and what he talks about in the beginning, he kind of like summarizes himself in one word. He says, I'm a joiner. And then he explains what that means. But then as the conversation goes on, there's a red thread, and you can see like how the music thinking also and listening then does that as well.
Yeah.
So
Is
I
there a
thought,
paradox? Is there some tension between being a joiner and being sort of a maverick going your own way? Just thinking.
oh,
Hmm.
I don't know if there's tension, but I think there's definitely something. Ooh, because that's a great question. Because joiners and the way he kind of explained it, or and how I'm also envisioning it, is like
Mhm,
taking these separate things and
mhm,
saying, how can we make this come together? How can we
mhm,
make this work? And maybe things you wouldn't necessarily associate. He shares a nice story of how he came up with musical thinking, which is an example of
mhm,
associating two different things you wouldn't necessarily.
mhm,
And um, I bet a lot of Mavericks are joiners actually.
mhm,
They're being able to see things. 'Cause
mhm,
I think it's also a huge sign of creativity is being able to make connections and associations between different things that aren't
mhm.
necessarily obvious.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, which is so maybe that's also something that the pattern. I recognize that I really like bringing people together, but I'm slightly autistic, so I don't like to be with people. So sorry, sorry.
Okay, you go in the room, I'll leave. Okay, yeah.
Well, no, but there's something there which is kind of funny because so it's actually being an outsider that so you have how do you see when you bring things together? How do you see what's emerging? You have to be a little bit on the outside, right? So because you have to take
Very
that point of
true.
view,
Yeah.
like you can't be in the middle of it because you can't see it, right?
Hmm.
So you have to be a bit on the outside. So it's kind of so there is a little bit of tension between if you bring things together, but you can't be part of it,
Hmm.
right? So because otherwise you don't see it because you're in the middle of it. So you have to be continuously kind of disconnecting yourself from it
Yeah.
continuously, which is a tension that I have experienced many times.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's if I kind
Yeah.
of remind myself of all the conversations we've had so far, I think a lot of these people had that you are a joiner, you put things together, you put people together,
Mhm.
you designing is basically putting things together in a novel way, right?
Definitely.
Where and then it creates new values or something,
Mhm.
new experiences. You're not creating something new, you create new connections or connect things
Yeah.
differently.
Correct. Yeah.
But you but yeah, but at the same time you have to be on the outside to see it, to go like like an artist, if you make a painting, you have to step back, to kind of
Yeah.
go like, what is it? Oh, okay, right,
Yep.
is it
Yeah.
okay, kind of, because if you're that's when you see if it actually works, if it's okay from a distance. So you have to be able to take steps backwards and then go like, what did I just create? But that means you're not there anymore. You're not in it. Anyway, so I just kind of thought,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Companion, maybe, so his brand, being the creative companion. Maybe that's also, yeah. There's a companion is also, yeah. It's more like you're like a mentor or coach or yeah. Anyway, yeah, yeah. Something to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I once again somehow feel inspired by this conversation.
Somehow.
So yes. Um, I mean, I'm surprised, but I'm also not surprised. It's becoming a bit of a yeah. But hearing these people's stories and just always like, oh, I should also just trust the process a little bit more because it'll work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so for the folks listening to us rambling on, for those who are listening, do also let us know what you hear, right? So
Mm.
do let us know, are you hearing, do you see patterns? Do you hear patterns? Do you recognize these things? Because I do, and I think you do too.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
we,
Let us know what you hear, what you recognize.
yeah, okay. You want to go and listen to the interview?
Good idea.
All right, enjoy. There's so many stories that we share, and one of them is actually that he took my job, years ago.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
habit
didn't get
talk.
I didn't get hired, and he did for the job that I applied. So which actually led to me starting Design Thinkers Group. That's a different story,
Oh yeah.
but
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, because nobody wanted to hire me. They were like, what are you? Are you a strategist, or are you a creative or a strategist? Well, who are you? And I said, can't I be both? And they couldn't figure it out, and I couldn't get a job, and I wasn't sure enough to start my own business. And then I thought, well, all right, I'll just do it myself then. And that was designing it, and he got the job because they
Got the job.
they basically
You could have been
they,
Arne, Christof.
You
Did
could
I
have.
ever tell you how I got the job?
No.
Do you want to hear it?
Definitely.
So we jump right in, okay? So it's
Perfect. Yes.
So this is not how we start the podcast. Wait a minute. Wait, hang on. I have a whole thing. No, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. This is going to be the messy.
Did you get the job?
Messy. Yeah, go, Christof. Jump right in.
And we don't use the names or the companies. We don't talk about that. So I worked for an agency, and we won a very big pitch, a digital pitch. I worked for a digital agency, 150 people, and we won. And it was for a very big telecom company in the Netherlands. And I was creative director. And I said, they just changed their house style, their identity, new logo and everything. So we have to talk with the other agency to make the best website, because we won the website pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone in the team said, oh no, are you crazy? So why with another agency? And said, hey guys, we have to understand and to know what they thought about with the new identity. This is online. It has to go together. Okay, so we made a meeting together with the client at that new agency where we're talking about. And it was one of these days where the client was stuck in public transport. So we were there earlier. I came together with an art director and everything. And it was like, when I entered the room, it really struck me. It sounds stupid, I know, but there were the losers, meaning they were looking at me like, shit, you took our job, because everybody pitched on that website, but we won. So you come into a room where there is really like, you could feel it. So from, okay, what do they want? Okay, so we went into talking, and very quickly I understood. So they thought this is the beginning of a collaboration. And for me, it was just getting information and understanding what's the brand for, because we won. We are the designers. Okay. And by the way, the client was still in public transport. So, okay, spoiler alert, he didn't show up also after 2 hours. So we sat there 2 hours and we're doing polite talk and everything. And at a certain moment, I said, okay, guys, let's talk. Let's do this. Let's help us to understand what were the changes. And they said, no, we can do this. We have to do this first together with the client and for the work that will come. And he said, no, there will be no extra work. So this is just like some kind of handover, nice talk. And then we were, talking back and forth if this was right. So I said, hey, why not call him? Because he was still in public transport somewhere in the Netherlands. And he was on the phone. And I said, hey, hello, blah, blah, blah. So we're already here. Oh, well, yeah, where are you? Oh, you're still there. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, we had a short discussion about this and this. And there are two perspectives on how we work together. And this is what they think, and this is what I think. And there was only one sentence on the other line: Christof is right. So this was like, oh, okay. So everybody was going like this. And then it was, okay. But we can't do it today. You have to come back. All right. So 2 weeks later, we came back, and then we did the official one, and then it was over. But now comes the answer of the question. How did I get the job? After 2 weeks, one of there were two partners called me, said, hey, Christof, how are you? How are you doing? And I thought, hey, why is he calling like this? And at a certain moment, he said to me, you know, we never did this, but we're looking since 1.5 years for creative director for the digital part of our agency. And when you went out of the room on the first day, everybody said, this is him. Yeah. So one of the worst meetings I had, because it was awkward, trying to talk with people, was actually my solicitation.
Yeah. So I actually applied for the job. So I actually came to the office and applied for that job.
Like the socially acceptable way of acquiring a job.
Just, I mean, I actually wanted a job, right? And they were like, no. And then Christof came in. Christof didn't even apply for the job. No, and he got it. Like, what's going on? Anyway, yeah, it's true. It's because, and I've not just at that agency, but at quite a few agencies I applied. So when I left the agency I was working for at the time as creative director, I really wanted to get involved in service design. And it was just, I mean, this is like what is it? Early 2000s. When it started emerging in the British Design Council, and it was talking about this, and there were some, there were some communities talking about it, and there was a university talking about it, or it was just really emerging, but weak signals basically. But I was really interested in it because I didn't like the agency world. I really didn't like the agency world because it was so competitive, and it was the doors were so closed, and it wasn't really nice. And I didn't like the people running these agencies, and et cetera, et cetera. There are all these things that I didn't like. And I really wanted to be part of the problem. That sounds weird, but instead of being part of the solution, hang on, wait, no, that's not right. Yes, because when you're part of where there's still a problem in the problem space, you can really make impact. And as an agency, usually you're the last to know. Basically, you get the brief. There's a budget. They get it. We want a website. We want this. But is that really what you want? Can we measure that? Can we talk to the consumers or your customers or your stakeholders? No. So we wanted to move into what I now understand, into consultancy. I didn't know that at this time. I didn't, it was a surprise to me that once we started competing with the consultancies out there, I didn't realize that. But that's sort of where I wanted to go. I wanted to be inside of the organizations, messing with the business and with the organization and with their structures and their culture, et cetera, et cetera. But I was a creative. I was a creative director, and so I came in to apply for these kind of jobs. And so when I started talking about it like this, they were like, "What is he talking about? That's not what we do. We do logos. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we do house styles, we do branding and identity design, etc. That's what we do, and which is great. And I've done that, and I love doing it, but it's so superficial. I want to do more. So they had no clue what I was talking about. Neither did I, by the way. But anyway, that's beside the point. I was like, no, there's something out there. I don't know what it is, and let me do it. And that helped actually shape my thinking. Also, the conversations, obviously. But nobody wanted to hire me, and I wasn't secure enough. I felt like I was a bit insecure that I was going to start my own business. I was like, really, me? Can I do that? Just like, and it was out of the blue, just like, let's do this. And then I was basically a little bit forced into it. And then I started Design Thinkers, which obviously now I'm happy it happened. But it's kind of funny that years later, I met Christof, and we kind of, I don't know how we talked about what did you do in the past. And they're like, hey, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that agency I applied. Oh, that was the job I applied to. So he took my job. See, these Germans, that's what happens.
They don't even say that they want it, because he asked me and I said,
I know.
Well, no. No. I said, I'm now here. I'm doing my, so why should I go? And this was, let's say, it went, I think, 2 or 3 months, and then they asked me, hey, don't you want to come over? And yeah, okay. And at a certain moment you talk with each other, and then I thought, hey, wow, maybe it's very nice because they really wanted me. That's maybe my weak point. If people really want you, you say no. So
Yeah,
I
Very
don't
that's true.
flattering.
know this. So
Yeah.
and to but the how can I put this? The biggest experience was then working there, because in that time we used the expression user-centered design.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So user-centered interaction design, all these words that more or less have the same meaning. And then there were really designers. And I must say, I'm not a designer. I didn't study design. So I was the only and the first non-designer in a big design agency. And because I was digital, that's my background. Since the 90s, I was doing CD-ROM and online and HTML and all of this stuff. So that was my normal. And that was a company that doing logos on big houses. And on
Big logos.
yeah,
Yes.
big
Make
logos.
my logo bigger. Yes.
So I said we need user-centered design, and then I got from the creative director of so I was responsible for digital. So then you get from the other creative director, from Christof, every design is made for a person, so user. So every design is per se user-centered. I said, hang on, that's not how it works. It's the other way around. You first have to ask what people want and need. And if you're good, you feel the latent need and don't do what they say. You come up with what they need. I say, yeah, we're doing this too. So there was a lot of misunderstanding. Yeah. And when I did offers for a company, for new, other people came to me and say, oh, Christof, this offering, that's not good. That's not how we work here. I said, how? What is it? Yeah, the design hours must be twice as much as the research hours. Say, what? Why? How do you know? So this was a lot of many misunderstandings how the world worked. It was 2006, I think, around that. So it was really like, for me also, learning like, hey, hang on, they think like 10, 15 years ago. So I had some kind of flashbacks. I thought, oh, they are there. So what do I do? How can I help them? Because they wanted this, but when you're there and trying to help to change, which what they said, what they wanted me for, they didn't want it really. So that was pretty special.
Yeah, but it's an interesting time because it was sort of a crossroad, where these new ways of thinking and new ways of designing and new or new kind of understanding of design kind of started emerging. And that's why I also got kind of restless, like we're not in the right place. There's something else going on. Come on, wake up. And but I was working at an agency that also just, they couldn't, I mean, they, even if they understood, we didn't have the people or the clients who, there was no work, nobody was going to pay us to do that kind of work. So it's actually really interesting if you think about it, how it was sort of interesting time to kind of to be alive, really. Yes. So
Do we do the classic question?
yeah, go. Sorry. Yeah,
Classic.
Morgan, go. I warned you.
did.
We have shared experiences, and so two old friends. Sorry, two old friends.
Where's the
Reminiscing.
difference?
Well, yeah, no, sure. Reminiscing is dangerous. So yeah, take over, Morgan.
Okay, so the classic question, Christof, if you had to tell someone who you are or what you're about without, or someone, Arna, you always ask this so well, help me here. If you had to introduce yourself.
No, Morgan, try.
You
Take your time.
Introduce yourself. If you had to introduce yourself without talking about your profession and what you do professionally, how would you introduce yourself?
That's interesting question. Yeah, I get reminded when my daughters were in school and they were asked, "What is your father doing?" They at the very end they ended up to say, "Oh, yeah, he's sitting in front of a computer." So that's maybe the shortest version from the kids then. But I'm freelancing now since 13 years. And I started a company, and it's called Creative Companion. And I think that's what I am.
You are your company?
Yeah, I'm my own company. So when I started,
I am going to protest. There must be there must be something else than who no. Who are you?
On the bottom of his foot, there's his tax number. I'm sure of it.
No, you're more than your company.
No, what I want to say is Creative Companion. So accompanying creatives or creatively accompanying others. That's, I think, in the smallest sense. So if you would ask me, what are you doing in 2 words? This would be my answer. And the other answer would be a very long answer. And I think all of your guests and the most people that we know, it sounds like, what's that song? I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, so then you try to tell everything that you ever once did and still is right. So and if you would ask me what is it in 1 word, then I would say I'm a joiner. And because I learned that the English word for cabinet maker is joiner, and that's my first profession.
Really?
Really, and that's really also goes back to my parents, and because I learned the profession in my parents' company, which was established by my grandfather in 1885. So I'm the fourth generation, and they did a very, very, very hard burden on my head, because I'm named first and second name after my great grandfather. So that was the thing. So somehow, and we are 4 kids. So I was the only one who did the how do you call it, apprenticeship?
Mm-hmm.
The apprentice, ending up with a journeyman certificate.
Right.
So
what was that? So you say cabinet maker is that like carpenter?
Yeah, a carpenter would be more, let's say, building a house, and a cabinet maker makes a cabinet and everything that's inside. So like a.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. And is the company still there, or you basically
it stopped in the 90s, and that's a long story in that sense. So we are 4 kids. I was number 2. So, and my elder brother, he's also a singer and an actor, and it was from the beginning was clear he will go that direction. And by the way, when we were young, we were like twins. We also had the same clothes, and so he's only 1.5 years, or my mother always said 1.75 years older than me. And I was very handy, and I was the boy. So just I did everything that a young boy in the countryside does, and everybody said, So I was the crown prince many years, and I even did my journeyman's certificate. So I was the only child in the family, and then I stopped. So did something else.
And what was because you said you have your brother who was clear he would go in like the acting, singing direction. There's you growing up in the countryside, and you said there's 4 kids, and you're in the countryside. So is that in the Netherlands? Where are you from? I'm
born in a very small, I have to say village I don't want to offend people, but I think in my time there was 1,500 people, 2,000 people. So a small village in the south of Germany, in between 3 hills. And my parents had a joinery. And yeah, so I'm, the biggest city was Heilbronn, and if you don't know this, it was Stuttgart. So it was
I've
like,
been there. I've been in Heilbronn. Yeah.
oh, really?
Yes. I ate schnitzel there a couple of times. No, we did work for Bosch because Heilbronn is, that's where the people speak Swedish.
Yeah, sort of.
I
But because
think.
I'm 30 kilometer north, so
You're not Swedish.
the language there is
Yeah, no, it's just that it's funny because Heilbronn is sort of and Stuttgart obviously is where all basically the cars come from.
Yeah.
Except for Volkswagen. I think everything else is from there. And then also Bosch is from there. So that's an engineering, big engineering hub, basically, where, it's amazing, by the way, what, the history of that place. So that's interesting that, because that is also, I mean, the people there also will tell you that there's this sort of kind of a character to the people from that region because of the engineering background and the kind of the industry there. Is that something is that part of the family as well? Is that sort of is that less so?
No, we were, let's say, craftsmen. That's for the line where I would go. So you work with your hand, you do what people need. But I have to tell, because it was for third generation. So my father in the 60s made the company bigger, and then specialized in the 80s on making pharmacies. So really big. So it's not just you make a cabinet or a table. So then the whole pharmacy. So this was really a big operation, and that's where when I started, I think in beginning of the 80s, I started that, and that was the time, where I was the man. So did everything, could do everything. And that's funny if you do like training like this in a company like that. So I think in that time we had 50 people in the company, and later it went to 100. So it was also not that little tiny joinery workplace. So it was also like trying to be efficient and effective, and trying to understand different parts. It was also a little bit different kinds of working. And if you start there as the son of the boss, then you get two types of people. So one type would be, they see you as you are, and the others, they see you as the son of.
Yeah.
And they
Crown Prince
to you. They ask you different questions and what else. So that was really, for me, really a school in learning, trying to understand people, that it differs very much how they see you, and they don't see you as you are, as long as they don't know you really. And still there were people that didn't get what I did. And I had the longest hair in that time, so you wouldn't imagine this now, but was this allowed? And so it was really, really interesting mix. But maybe good to share with you what was interesting, and I think that's just still answering your question. So where does it all come from, or what is still in me? At the lunch table, and in the south of Germany, you eat warm it's a warm lunch. So it's a real lunch. It's 1 hour and you eat. And it was at the table, there were three generations. So my grandfather, second generation. So he took it from his father and gave it to my father. So my father here, you can say the CEO, also the creative, also the entrepreneur. My mother, let's say, head of HR of the CFO, so on the table. Then my grandfather, let's say, the legacy, the craftsman. And then you had us 4 kids that had to shut up normally, because if you're in kids of a company, it's always about the company, and the kids, they have to listen and eat their lunch, unless there's something happened at school, then you have a different discussion. And there was my grandmother, and my grandmother was actually, she was maybe she was the most interesting one, because before she married my grandfather, and it was in the 1920s, she went to Indianapolis to work there for 1 or 2 years, I think, as a maid, because she didn't want to marry my now grandfather. She just wanted to do something else. And she was very religious. That was also interesting. So I could talk with her about stuff that is not money or stuff or things. And you have to understand that this sits all together on the table. And that's, let's say, that's how I learned that company. Plus that when I worked there, I saw the company from a completely different perspective, from the perspective of the worker. So what's good, what's not good, what works for you, how do they make money, what's important, what's the brand, how can we, so this is everything for me to see an organization from different perspectives. I think that's something that I really bring to the table, to really try to understand people, try their positions, try their positions and perspectives. And sometimes it's the same, sometimes not. And really understanding that no one is right and everybody is right. Because everyone has a different, thing. And the funny thing was that my best friends working there were from the union, so they sometimes ask me, "Hey, when is a good time to to talk with the boss?" "Oh, hang on, not today, too much." So you get into this the joinery, so bringing not only pieces of wood together but also people, and that's why I choose that word. When I realize, hey, that's what I do. I bring together people, products, ideas, or stuff. And that's something that's my, I think that's when I feel natural, that when I'm in the room or in the project, that I see, oh yeah, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different perspectives. Cool. So we can make something special together. And then the nitty-gritty things start, because no one sees all these perspectives. But I think that's from our consulting or service design, or however you want to call it, that's the way to see and to bring it together.
It's kind of interesting that you talk about it. So because it reminds me of our previous guest, Dave Kester. He talks about sort of having this, I'm not sure if he used that word exactly, but the dinner party, sort of having sort of a group of people and having dinner together, and having that diverse group of people, but that kind of feeling you want to be together, because in this case you're family. So but it's interesting because it is all those, as a metaphor, is really interesting, because in that sense you have all these perspectives at the table. And it's a nice metaphor if you think about it. You can kind of take all those positions yourself. You go like, oh, what if I would be the CEO of the company? What if I would be the HR person? What if I be the worker? And what if I be, but so it's kind of a nice way of as an image, at least for me, it's a nice image. I see Italian family. I don't know why. In my brain, I know it's German, but somehow this is it's like this Italian movie,
Crown prince at one end, the religious grandma at the other end.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. Are you sure you're German?
No, was by the way, that's a good one. If you would ask me what would be next, so I don't know if I come back. So reincarnation. So I'm not. So maybe Italy or Japan. So these would be my 2 guesses.
That's interesting. There's very interesting. Is that
how do you come up with those locations?
Oh, that's a good question, because I don't think about location. I just think more about being. So it's not, for me, it's not a destination. It's a way of being, behaving. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So how are you as
Japanese and Italian? Sorry, Japanese and Italian are very different also as well.
maybe.
know. Interesting. So, okay, take us through your Japanese alter ego. What it was? What is that like? So you come back. So you're coming back. Something terrible's going to happen, right? Yeah, just no,
We're
not now.
delightful. We never know. We
After the
never
podcast.
know.
Well,
There's a
yeah,
light,
but
and then
anyway, then yeah, exactly, and then boom, you're in Japan and you're Japanese. What happens?
now
How are you?
what I like with Japanese and the Italian, that it's the ambiguity in some way. So in Japan, there's an attraction on technology, on wow, powerful colors and action and everything. And on the other hand, it's like, it's the simplicity. It's by the way, have you ever seen Japanese joinery?
Insanely stunning.
That's really, if you only see it, you fall quiet.
Yeah,
And do this. That's really
and
fantastic.
for people who don't who aren't familiar with joinery, a lot of times there's other things being added to hold the elements together, either like a screw or a wooden pin or some kind of biscuit or something. But Japanese joinery is so elegant and so simplistic and so perfect that the pieces just hold themselves together. So they'll just cut these two pieces of wood, and if you watch videos, they'll just like magically meet up, and boom, you have this perfectly made table that can support all of the load without using any glue or screws or nails. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I like that very much, because sometimes we say, oh, like design thinking is the glue. And I always thought, why glue? If you really make it good, you don't even need glue. So
Yeah.
so and I love Japanese music, and I'm fascinated by everything. I've never been there. That's that's a fun fact. It never happened. So that's why, for me, some countries are not per se a destination, although I would like to go there. But like, yeah, I don't know who said this. It's like your, I think it was Beuys, Innere Mongolei. So you're inner Mongolian, So there's something in you that is different, but it's in you. So this would be my inner Japanese too.
Okay.
And then you mix it with the Italian. So, but okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the Italian version of the joinery, because that's more chaotic. I hope.
Absolutely. That's more the loud part, but it's family. And it's also like, if your family, you don't kick your brother, it's still your brother. Doesn't matter what he does. And I don't have to defend someone. I can say, okay, I don't agree, but it's still your brother. And it helps you also to get consensus on different things. And I think you can learn from that family, that family thing, just what I said on the table. So there were a lot of different themes on the table. At the very end, you start eating together and you end eating together, and you will do it tomorrow again, because this is family. And I still have a very strong link with my brothers and sisters. So it's like, okay, they're different, but we all. Yeah, so there's something that you have together. And I think that's also in Italy. It's like, I can tell you, so there's, with my younger brother, sometimes there is something where he said, okay, can you help us to do a certain job? And then it depends on the company where he is. Okay, that's a compliance problem. So yeah, I can't hire you. We have the same family name. And the last time he in another company, he said, okay, yeah, there might be a compliance problem, but yeah, it's my brother. You could, it's your brother, but then we take him. So it's also a different culture in a company. So one company would say, hang on, no way. If this comes into the books and they're, oh, no, we don't go there, compliance and everything. And the others say, hey, it's about trust. If you think that this is the best thing to do and you trust it, we trust you. So I like these two sides.
I kind of like the I'm still with the Italian family, but now they're all Japanese, by the way. But at the table, but they're Italian at the
German
same
and
time.
Dutch and
They're
whatever.
all the same. No, but it's about safe spaces. So, right. So it's about having sort of creating it. Not that all families are a safe space, by the way. I'm not saying that, because I know families who are not always, safe spaces, but the ideal kind of,
Yeah.
dinner table scene with this family, that you can argue and you sometimes get angry at each other, but your family. So like you said, tomorrow we're here again. And so you actually, because it in a way, which is also a bit of a kind of difficult paradox almost, is that it's not it's a cliche, but it's true. Like most cliches, is that the people who are closest to you, you hurt them the most, usually, because they're close to you. So those are, and especially if you feel safe, if you're, I can be like, can be very grumpy, and didn't sleep well, something didn't go right, and I can be at home. It can be, I can be myself. I can be like, it's stupid this or whatever, and then I go out and I meet with a client or something, and I was like, hey, hello, and I'm fine. So so sometimes that can be quite confusing also for like my wife, like you were so you're grumpy, and then you pick up the phone and you sound like you're fine, like, but that's a different scene, now I'm me. And so like my kids, I they can be angry with me because we disagree or something, and that's how, and I always have to tell myself that's fine. They should be able to get angry with me, because if they won't show that, then there's something wrong. They should feel safe to disagree with me, and to show that they really disagree with me, that they should be safe. If they do it, they feel safe, and so that idea of being able to disagree and get angry, because you have to be able to get angry sometimes you just have that energy. You go like, now I'm just really angry, because it's fine, and we're not going to leave each other alone, because we're going to be back at this table tomorrow, and and that feels safe, that you trust each other, that we're not going to go anywhere. This is a safe space. And yeah, of course, and there's limitations to how angry you can get, obviously, right? But I think that's a nice metaphor, and I like that.
I saw a little toddler in the stroller today. I took a walk at lunch, and the kid must have been like 3 or 4 and wanted something that their mom wouldn't agree to. I'm really angry.
Yeah.
But I
Oh
thought it
my
was
God.
also so cute and clever for and he wasn't really yelling, but you could feel like the anger and the frustration, like,
Yeah.
angry, to verbalize it. It was really
Oh
charming.
my God. I think every parent had this moment. Like, I don't know I mean, now, if I see it now, I go like, oh, poor mother or father, or whatever,
Because I would just usually see
because
like screaming and yelling and be like, oh, I think there's some anger there. But because
I
he was able
know.
to verbalize it, I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, my kids would. I mean, they both did it. They would, like, in the supermarket, they wanted to have like candy or something,
Sure, yeah.
and we said no, and they would lie on the floor, kicking and screaming, and you go like, "Oh my God, this is so you're so embarrassed by it." And now when I see it now, I go like,
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
I always liked it in some way when they do it.
"Yeah,
So
well, it's yeah, both.
All
It's
want to do
both.
it.
It's
because
We
both."
all want to do
I
it.
thought,
Yeah.
what can I learn from them in a situation where I don't agree? What would be the analogy of lying on the floor and making it for everybody embarrassing
Yeah,
until I get what I want?
exactly. Yeah,
Perfect. Great.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah, no, exactly. But that's the thing, right? They're trying to kind of force you, because they're like, now you're really embarrassed. I'm going to make a scene, and so- and it was just really funny. So it's funny at the same time. I do agree. At the same time, I go like, okay, this is really like, I'm in this movie. In this movie. What's happening here? Oh my God, my kid is doing this. Yes, I see what you're doing. This is really funny. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, sorry, people in the supermarket. This is like, but yeah, but that is, in a way, that is the ultimate safety, when a kid feels so safe that they can just lie down on the floor, screaming and kicking, because they want to have this candy. and they are totally secure that they can get away with it somehow, that nothing really bad will happen to them. So at the
True.
same time, you're like, yeah, so what would be the metaphor exactly for us, Christoph, that when are we going like, I don't want it. Sometimes, yeah, Morgan, sometimes we all want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I used to work in customer service because you talked about like switching your personalities, when you answer your phone with a client or something. But we would all have our customer service voices. And as soon as we would shut off the lights at 5, the masks would come off and me and my colleagues would just,
Exactly.
can't believe I just had to pretend for 8 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, Christoph, so because you obviously moved to the Netherlands at one point, but also you became interested in IT, technology, and all that. Where did that happen?
And that was before. So maybe I just have to mention my steps. So when I was done with the joinery, I did my civil service. I had to do my civil service, and in my time, you had to go to before the court to not go to the army. And then I was allowed to do civil service in the psychiatry. And then I didn't want to go back to what I did before. And then I started studying philosophy and musicology and history of art. And that was a shock for everybody who thought he's the man, he will do it. And I said, yeah, but I can work with my hands. So check, we got that. So now let's go to a different place. And then I studied musicology. And when I was ready, I had no job. And we were pregnant. My wife was pregnant, and we had no. So also our apartment was canceled by the landlord. And then I went back in working with wood again. So I worked in the opera house in Karlsruhe, and worked there for a year. And then I did public relations training for a year. And then I met people on a trade show about digital stuff. So I was always interested in everything. So like new media. I'm talking about the 90s here. Sorry, it's quite some time ago. And there were two people from a film production company in Stuttgart, and I was presenting a CD-ROM. And they asked me what I'm doing here. And when they understood that I was free and looking for a job, they gave me their business card and say, call me tomorrow. And 2 days after tomorrow, I went to Stuttgart, and I got a job that I didn't know what it is. It was project manager for CD-ROM productions, and then doing CD-ROM productions for Les Miserables, Joe Cocker, you might know. And so we did productions with them, and it was not for the film. So it was using the film on CD-ROM. In that time, they called it edutainment.
Remember this.
These words, that was the 90s on CD-ROM. And I learned that when you just have made the CD-ROM, the process, and you have let's say this unique thing that you can test, and then Windows 95 comes out, then you can throw it away because it doesn't work on that platform anymore. And that happens in the 90s very often. So I learned a lot about production. And parallel, I learned HTML in the train. I was commuting Stuttgart, Karlsruhe, and so I was learning HTML because, internet, that's interesting. So I said before, I'm not a designer. I never was on a design school, but I'm a self-made doer. So you just do it. And in the 90s, there was no service design or any digital design training that you could do. You had to do it on the job. And that's when when you had some ideas, you could do it, and you find people that can make it. And for me, I came up with ideas that when we always did, the 1st of May is the Europe Day, and the Berlin Philharmonic plays in a different European capital. And our company was doing the live the live registration of that concert. And then they asked the new media department what we could do. And I came up with the idea of online interviews. So we just ask in the internet if there people have a question for the Berlin Philharmonic, and Daniel Barenboim, a great conductor. And at the moment suprême, I would sit together with them for the internet, and we would answer the questions. So my first interview I did in the opera in Versailles with Daniel Barenboim. And in that time, you have to understand, technology was like, we have a computer. The guys from the film production, they have a fax machine. So we needed 20 meters of cable to come from that room to the other one to get into the internet. So that was these times. And so I'm learning by doing guy into technology. And after I worked for the for the new media department, which was also funny, talking about the story, getting a job of someone else. There's another hidden story there, because when you were done with the CD-ROMs, it was clear no one wants to buy infotainment or CD-ROMs, especially not produced in that way. So and I was let's say the project manager, and I have the boss of the department. And there were the end of the year talks, and it was like, so we both thought about, so like, okay, this will be maybe my last month there. So because, okay, CD-ROM doesn't work, and I was already busy with internet and all the ideas, but no one thought about that. So we had both our end of year talk, and my colleague, and we had a very good relation, so we were more or less also friends. And he was first, and so we thought about what would be the strategies so that I could stay in the company. And when he get out of the room from the boss, I had to get in, and he was giving me some signals that I didn't get it. So what he wanted to tell me, but he wanted to tell me something, but this was not possible because I had to get in and he get out. And I got in, the door closed, and the boss said, "I just fired your colleague." I said, "What? Don't you believe anymore in new media?" I said, No, I think you can do it better. So this was shocking. First, never thought about. So we saw what you do and how quickly you went from CD-ROM to internet, and then they thought, okay, wow, this guy is doing much more than the other one. That was really hard there. I have 2 kids. He has 2 kids. We had a very good relation. We thought about, hey, how can I stay in the company? But it changed totally because he was set off, and I had to stay.
Oh man!
See, it's in your DNA. You're taking people's jobs. That's my my takeaway.
You also
from
got
this
that
story.
job without applying for it, so that's another.
But new interesting stuff is coming on. It was the start of Design Thinkers, Arne.
No. That means so much better. What is that colleague of you doing now? He started what?
He's working for Intel in America now. Extremely good job. So there was no worry about that. He will get there. But I just talk, it's a moment, or it's a momentum in time where it really goes like, I think, hang on, I don't get it. I didn't saw that perspective. There was, obviously there was one, but I didn't get it.
Yeah, but I guess there's something about, and it probably has something to do with the way you grew up, of working with your hands. You just go and do it. I think there's something that, which is a way of, which is not so much a way of thinking, it's an attitude towards things. You just go and do it. And And a lot of people will not, they will hesitate or wait or think that it's not theirs, or they should, talk to an expert first or something, or probably, I don't know. And then so this idea of just, being sort of someone who just kind of is able to work with their hands and just go and do it. I think that's something that a lot of companies, employers, like in their employees, right? The people go like, oh, he just switched, and he's curious, and he's just, so I think that's I guess it kind of makes sense why that's recognized as something valuable, because at that time, and it still is, but at that time, we were, I don't know if you can compare it to nowadays with AI and all that, but at that time, with the internet, and that it's interesting, new words like new media. Yeah, I just remembered that word because actually we never use that anymore. There's like, oh yeah, right, I've never used that
Very
was the word.
old-fashioned.
Yeah, it's new media, and stuff like that kind of technology with CD-ROMs and then Flash and all that stuff that actually didn't really work. I worked with that as well, but there was a moment where things were changing so rapidly, like exactly what you were saying. So one moment you kind of design something for a certain system, and then the next day, it didn't work anymore. You kind of, so there was such an insecurity there as well around technology, because it was actually, it wasn't really doing the job. Really, it was a bit crappy. Like Flash was always it worked on some computers and it didn't work on some other computers. But there was a speed to things. So like CD-ROMs, and before that, the floppy disks and the whole thing, that there was something going on. And I think you might be able to compare it with nowadays, where AI also creates this kind of feeling where you're like, where is this going? And so, who are the experts? Who are the people? So I'm really, I think there's, now also people look for, they'll just get because there are no real. I mean, there's some experts, sure, the lot of self-proclaimed experts, but people just go and do it, just show it, just go and build something or create something or find out or kind of take it apart and then put it back together again. And that attitude, I think that's something we should teach kids, by the way. And I don't think we are. I think your story of, you work with your hands, you're used to building stuff and making stuff, but then you went from your sort of your hands and your body to your head, to your brain, but then having both of those elements in there, I mean, you're the perfect human being, really.
Can we stop here?
It doesn't get
what I think is important, or let's say it's part of my story, is really that craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And there was, when we were young as kids, my mother always said, first you learn a craft and then you can do whatever you want to do. And I was the only guy who literally did it. First I learned the craft, and then I did what I wanted to do.
That was not what they wanted, by the way. They wanted,
that's the other thing. So
you took it out of context.
Yeah, all right. Sorry.
What everything within the sort of the family business, within the family business is what
the link what I want to make is making a craft. And I also see my work nowadays as whatever you want to call it, it's a craft. It's not, we don't just do consulting or do service design. I think the way how I work, or you educate, or your facility, I'm thinking much more as a craft. You do it often. You're always not 100% sure, but you're very sure, and people see that, whoa, he did it more than one time. So I like very much that doing, and it needs your brain and your head and your hands. And that's the link that I would like to make to AI. How can we use AI as a craftsman? So what is the craft of AI? Is that in the beginning we talked about making generative AI pictures, or what else it is. Is this a craft, or is it just playing with stuff? So where is really that, where it really can make the difference? And that's also the difference between a table that if a client asks you, please make a table, then everybody knows, okay, some people have to sit on it. So you would also need chairs or anything. So it's a part of the context. And the same for AI is we have to learn what it does and how it does, but let's not pretend already that this is already a table. It's just still trying to understand how the wood works and how can I cut the wood. So and I think that's the big problem too, that everything is a product right away. When you understand the buzzword, then you want to use it and you want to make a product and you want to make money with it. So, but really trying to understand what it does and what it can do. I would love to be to get a journeyman certificate of AI.
That would be very cool. And I'm trying to think, like, because you're talking about the craft of AI, but AI is obviously applicable in so many different realms and applications. And I wonder if, of course, there can be a craft to AI, but also if it's rather about having, so I'm just reading the Stephen King book on writing. So, you know, he's one of the greatest authors, and he talks about his writing process. And naturally talking about the craft of writing. But then you could think of, okay, if I'm thinking about writing, how could AI support or add or do all of the other things that I maybe don't want to do, like get rid of adverbs and check my punctuation. But it's really interesting because then you can either hone in on a craft, because there's also sometimes you can look at a picture, like an AI generated image, and you can just feel that it's off. And it's not because somebody has 17 fingers on their hand, but you can still, you can still feel that it's off. So I'm really curious how humans are going to be able to use this tool and let themselves become the craftsman rather than just letting it kind of, take mow us over in a way, which I think was the concern at first as well.
Yeah, I think what you say, AI is maybe such a big conglomerate of different things, what it can be. Maybe the combination with the word craft is a little bit crazy, but hey, why not find out what it is? And it doesn't mean that it necessarily has to. Maybe it's just, maybe AI, we often say AI is just a tool. So, oh, it's the level of a hammer or a plane or anything else. So it's just that. It's not like, it's not the whole, to stay in that picture, it's not the whole workshop. It's just one of these things that makes it easier to do the things we did before in a different way.
Like so many things before it, right? Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, depends a little bit on your perspective and your background. And so people who are kind of, you know, crafts. So for instance, like photographers, you could say, oh, now, you know, we don't need them anymore because basically we can create these prompts and AI can kind of produce that image. But then again, it's the same thing really, because like, what kind of image? What is the emotion you want to kind of evoke? And by the way, photographers have had Photoshop for many, many years. And that was technology they used to kind of change photos and backgrounds and the way people, you know, so it's not that revolutionary. But the point is like, what do you want? What would you like to achieve? It's a tool in that sense. The problem is, I think, when you forget that it's about questions that you should ask. When you go like, because answers are getting, you know, very easy. It's very easy to get answers. You just go to ChatGPT and just ask it the questions, ask the question, and it gives you an answer, and that's it. But then it's nothing. It's meaningless. And what do you want? What is the right question? So critical thinking. I think there's a craft in there because, I mean, you could argue we can all make tables. You know, it's like, it's not that difficult, you know, whatever you want to call a table. I mean, it's a block of wood can you put a
Spoken
cup of
like a
coffee?
man who's never made a table before in his life.
I mean, no, I mean, if you have a
No, I
block of wood,
know.
can you put a cup of coffee on it? It's a table,
That's true. That's
right?
true.
Right. So maybe it's really awesome as well. Who
Beer
knows? I mean,
kegs, I know.
yeah, right. Right. No, but it doesn't mean it's a good table. It doesn't mean it actually
That's
creates
the difference.
that
Yeah.
atmosphere and the thing that you actually wanted. You aren't really consciously designing, what you're actually trying to achieve, which can be many things. So you're not asking questions. But if you just want to have a place to put your coffee on, it can be just, it's a table, whatever is a table. And so I think that's interesting. What are you creating? Why are you creating that? And so again, it reminds me again of what a story Dave Kester told us about his childhood when he was he grew up in this block of flats, these apartment buildings that were designed for creating this communal experience, but not for families, for workers, for employees of a company. But that didn't work out. The employees never moved in, so families moved in, and so there wasn't a concept anymore that was, basically. But the building was designed for a communal experience, and so they had a communal experience because they designed the building for it, and so that drove behavior. So having sort of a conscious design of what do you want to achieve, what are you trying to do, why are you trying to do it, who wants that, and why do they want that, and how can we then try things out whether it actually works, and let's do and do trial and error and try stuff out. And then, yeah, I mean, if then technology, whatever technology, if it's AI, whatever, helps you kind of create that vision that you have, or at least it helps you experiment and try different things and then see whether it works, then it's great. I mean, ChatGPT is awesome as an ideation machine. It just you go like, give me 10 ideas for a new type of bicycle that can also float. And it goes like, boom, it has, and it give me 10 more ideas. And it goes, boom, it just keeps going until I always feel guilty. I go like, give me 10, sorry, 10 more, I'm sorry. And then I'll say, thank you. And it says, you're welcome. And you're like, this is crazy.
Isn't
Anyway,
it wild? We treat it like a person
I
sometimes.
know. I feel guilty when I ask it too many questions. Like, can you give me 10 more of these? I'm sorry. And am I pushing it? Don't push your luck, buddy. So like, no, but that's awesome. But it is about your brain is a filter, your reality, your context, where you from, that kind of creates the value of it. It's not because it gives you this idea. It's meaningless. You create the meaning. And so there's craftsmanship needed there, because that's what craftsmanship is understanding the details of it and understanding the value of these little things, of these kind of, for other people, even invisible things. But they create this sense of, that table that, is put together without the glue, a lot of people won't even see it until you tell them, by the way, you're buying this. I need to tell you, there's no glue. Oh, really? No, you can't tell. It's like, there's no glue. It just, you should know. Oh, really? You don't see it, but it's an awesome story. It's a great story. It's like, wow, because the next time people come over and, I'll tell them like, do you know my table is made without glue? Like, wow, this is an amazing story. But yeah, I mean,
techniques.
yeah. No, I'm joking a little bit, but I'm saying that these are meaningful things, and they're meaningful because they're meaningful to us. They're not meaningful to an AI. AI has you don't need empathy for AI. It doesn't have empathy for us. It doesn't have empathy for anything. It's just a functional thing that kind of regurgitates these answers, right? We have to create meaning out of it. And I think that's where the craftsmanship is. And I think that is why we need craftsmanship. We need that. I think that's the missing element, I think, of our time, I think.
And I think that's kind of like the skill of any good craftsperson too, right? Is being able to, because you're talking about being in the problem space as well. but like being able to see the situation, whether you're making a table or a cabinet or taking apart like a system to redesign it, being able to say, okay, what's the meaningful element here? What is the most important thing? And especially because I teach at a university and we see a lot of students using AI to just do their work and tell them what the most meaningful thing is. No, that's not what AI is going to do. We are the ones who assign meaning. Meaning has no connection to and so you can see that they kind of miss the forest. Is it you miss the forest from the trees? Is that the phrase?
Yeah, I think
And
I think you're totally right. I think that's it's like using a tool without knowing it, and you get hurt because you don't understand what it is. And
yeah,
in that analogy, you don't know what AI does, so it feels safe in that way. But on the other hand, it's like if you want to build something good, you have to understand how tools work and to use the right tools for the right moment. But you know what you want to build. And in AI, it's just like, oh, I'll build something. It doesn't matter. It's like
Yeah, but it creates such a beautiful thing for you that looks good that it's like I can't improve it. It's amazing, until you start looking a little better. So it's very shallow in that sense. And listen, I'm not saying I think we're just at the beginning of this, right? So we're at the start of something which is so interesting, and so we, in 10, 20 years time, I mean, who knows what it can do and what
maybe
our
AI
relationship. Hmm?
maybe AI will go the way of like edutainment. Like we won't even say the word AI anymore.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, there's so many things that we take for granted. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think already we're going, we're using, AI for stuff we don't even know we're using AI. It's just that it's omnipresent, right? So that's going to kind of continue. I think it has something to do with our relationship to work and our relationship to companies and business and to society and to et cetera, et cetera. So there's and technology is somehow pushing us to rethink the economy and the way we have our relationship to how we make our living and our money and how we live our lives. I think technology should free us and it should be so and not kind of it shouldn't be. Anyway, this is a completely different story. We were talking to Christof, but no, yeah, this is another topic. Because I know we've been talking for a long time, and I wanted to ask Christof about music because I know that is for me, you and music are kind of such a they're talk about twins, but that's music is your thing, and I know you play music, but you also have a whole philosophy around music thinking, and you wrote a book about this, and it's so we haven't talked about music yet. I know just a little bit that you studied something, and it's such a big thing. So that's how I know you as well. And I saw this video of you the other day. I don't know where, somewhere on new media, where you play the saxophone at a arts gallery,
yeah,
and with this big
right.
object that was moving around as if you pushed it with your sound.
Hmm.
So which was awesome. I rewatched it a couple of times. Like, is he blowing really hard on the saxophone that thing is moving? And I thought, oh no, wait a minute, he actually moves it with his hand. But it felt like it. So I really enjoyed that. That's a big part of you, right? So so tell us about your music and your relationship to music.
Maybe to refer to that video, and I will upload maybe in the next days another perspective, because two people made a video of it, and it was, and it's even better. What is it? A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, he's a sculptor, and they had the exhibition at the Kunstakademie Düsseldorf, so one of the most famous art academies. And he also had these objects, and I did the introduction. You do the music. I just played saxophone just in between when people talk, so very fancy. But when we walked around, he said, but actually I made them that they move. So, oh, then I have an idea. And then that was the videos. It was not planned anything. And because I touched them, and they were going back and forth.
Yeah.
That's also a little bit and that's the link also to music. I think I'm a very good improviser, I would say. So I love it to start with something. You could, in the design world, would say prototyping, or in music would say demoing. But improvising that's my standard. I play free jazz since more than 40 years. That's my normal. Just stay there and play. And so I said, okay. And then, you know how in our times, some people take a video of it, and I really get into it. So you could push them, and I think at least they stayed going back and forth, going back and forth. So it was really like, yeah, playing together. But I never heard that that it sounded like that it looked like the sound would make the move. That's even nice to hear. So really.
Yeah.
Even it was really playing together. So actually, I didn't play them; we played together. That's what it felt like. So that's one part. So I make music. I love music. I love musical instruments. So when I work, I don't use the word tool. I would rather use the word instrument, which more or less the same. Okay. But an instrument, you have to learn to play. And every instrument, or most of the instruments, they give you direction to a different kind of music. So if you have a shakuhachi, the Japanese bamboo flute, it's different than a violin or than an electric guitar or what else. And so when I worked, I studied musicology, meaning you know everything about music, but you don't necessarily have to be a musician. So that's like history of art. You know everything about art, but you're not an artist. And my specialty was the electronic music of the 60s. So that's why I know stuff. But I always played in bands, in pop bands, in rock bands. In the 70s, I had a punk band, and later I went to free jazz. So I like everything. Maybe not everything, but nearly everything. And but at least I think every music is interesting. And when I worked in design thinking or design thinkers or in design thinking center, sometimes people were using musical expressions. Oh, that's a great idea. We have to orchestrate it for the whole company. Or, hey, we have to pull all the plugs. And they say, hey, hang on. They're using musical terms. Or let's jam about it. And then I thought, hey, hang on. I'm the one who knows what it takes. So if you talk about orchestration, and you might like to hear, and you know a Mahler fifth, then you should understand that this could help you to orchestrate your idea better in an organization. Then I thought, hey, that's interesting. And the really, let's say, the epiphany or the aha came when we played in Russia with an ensemble, and I was and on the day I was working on a flea market with all these different stuff that they were showing, and I also learned that there is a market for single shoes or single boots, because some people only have one leg. So and then it gets okay, all right. So it really makes you think to be in a different country and see different ways. And then I saw some kind of booth where there were a lot of tools like screwdriver and everything. And on the top left-hand corner was a pile of vinyl records. And then it struck me like, hey, hang on, music can also be a tool. I don't know why they are there or what they did with it, but for me, it was that moment where I think, hey, I have to join, to connect all these different perspectives together and come up with something that is not a metaphor, but an analogy to see things from a different perspective, a very safe perspective, because in the design thinking center, sometimes at a training, sometimes people get sent to a training from organizations. Oh, you have to do the 2-day fundamentals. So we work with design thinking, you should know it too. And they were sometimes asking me, why should I think like a designer? Why can't they think like a developer or a financial guy or anything else? I thought, hey, that's a very good point. So not necessarily everybody has to think like a designer. And then I said, but do you have a music department? I said, hell no. I said, okay, why not use music as an analogy that's safe for everyone? And think about, and by the way, who likes music? Oh, what kind of music? Oh, I like jazz. I like classical music. I don't know. And then you start with where people's already are, their like of music. So when I do workshops or work with clients on strategy, I first always ask, how do you listen? Because I have an hypothesis, the way how you listen to music is the way how you listen to your partner, to your client, to your society. That's your way of listening. And then you always get like, hang on, wait a minute. And then say, oh yeah, it's not interesting if it's right or wrong. It's interesting if you think it's interesting to dive into what it could be. And then you come to points like different genres, like Spotify is tracking at the moment, I think it's 6,300 different genres. And, oh, hang on, how do they come and what they are and what does it mean? So I think, hey, a genre could also something be like a style making business. Oh, what is then the rock jazz variation of our organization? Well, hell no, I don't know, but let's listen if this resonates with us. And so I try to work from that part, and it's safe in one part because we can talk about music. We can tell people like, hey, classical music is not only this, it's also that. By the way, when we talk about leadership, it's always the conductor. But saying, hey, oh, why is the conductor the leader? He's the first follower of the composer because he is. As long as we talk about classical music, there was someone who was writing it down. Shouldn't we either think about who is the composer in that organization instead of getting a conductor in? And by the way, you need them both. Okay, how would this look like? How far do you want to go on that analogy? And the funny thing is that then people talk safe about music, about what they know. Sometimes you help them with different kinds of music that they have never heard and never know how it works. And it helps them to make decisions, to understand strategy better, and really to make a better business. So, and that's why it started with the framework. So it started visually. So the music thinking framework, or sometimes I call it also the dynamic strategies framework. And that was my start. And then I just wrote the book around it. So, but for me, it's also not writing the book. It's more making the book because all the graphics, all the ideas were in there. And at the very end, I gave it to some people, and some people gave me the reaction like, oh, it's a very practical how-to book. And then I thought, okay, I have some exercise in it. But for me, it's like a mindset, a way of thinking. You could call it philosophy if you don't. I don't want to offend philosopher, but it's the way of thinking. And it's a very practical way, because music, when you have a score, that's also a craft. You need someone to bring this score to life, to sound. And that's also a craft. And it's not about the score, because the score is not the music. It's only something like strategy or anything else that you use to make that you all want to do. So for me, it was so open door to use this analogy and to get into talk with people. And in my podcast, just to mention this, I only talk with people that do something special and are musicians. So I never talk with people that don't make music in some way. And then you can talk about music and you can talk about business. And at the very end, I often, Housebase, the software. So I talk with the CEO, with Ilkka, and he's a conductor of a big band since many years in Finland. I think more than 30 years. And he told me later on, wow, I never thought about that mine being a musician has an impact of being in his case, a CEO, and I also love it very much. So that's also, I always say it's for leaders and followers. We need also followers, and a follower can be a leader, and a leader can be a follower, especially if you're in jazz, you give and take. So it's all these open doors. But leading and following is also good. You also could use dancing. I think dance is also, when are you leading, when you're dancing? Oh, I don't know, we do it together. So that's also something. So for me, that music thinking tries to unite many things, like in design thinking, service design, branding, organizational change, theory, all these theories. With all respect, I try to, in a very nice way, let's make some kind of symphony out of it and bring it together, because everything can be an instrument in any different constellations.
Cool. Love it.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
I would, yeah. So the thing is, yeah, like I said, I mean, so because of, music being, it's kind of funny, because if you start talking about this, you can tell that's like, this is where you kind of start lighting up, like, oh yeah, music. Yes. So funny to see how that affects you as well. And it's a good point. I mean, I think almost everyone likes music. I actually met, I think I only, in my lifetime, at least, I think I only met one person who told me that she couldn't stand music, which was really interesting, by the way. You're like, yeah, she had, yeah. So basically, it was a sort of a problem. Obviously, something was going on. I don't know what the name was for it, but she couldn't listen to it, and so we were having a workshop with our music for people to kind of relax, and she was like, "I'm sorry, I can't listen to music." By the way, probably also interesting for your podcast, by the way, because that's a really interesting take on things. Like the extreme non-user of it.
Yeah, maybe just to add, actually, it's not about music; it's more about listening.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Also
of course,
spoke to people that don't like music, and then I get the cue, because then I say, but how do you listen? And they love to listen to everything that's there.
Yeah, for sure.
Environment,
yeah,
to enjoy that the heating makes noise, or the birds, and so for me that's also part of the music thinking, but you have to coin a name. And
no, for sure. And the point is really that although, I mean, in general, you could say music is sort of it creates bridges, and it also creates sort of, you can dislike the music someone else likes and still be okay with it. So it's such an interesting kind of, because you're right. So you can really like free jazz, and I listen 5 minutes, I go crazy, but we can still be friends. No, and someone else can love classical music. Someone else loves Mariah Carey. I don't know. It's possible. I know there's people like that, and so that's okay, right? And that's okay. But it doesn't tell you. It doesn't say that you. It's such a safe thing to disagree on. Almost like that's such a funny way. So it builds bridges. I'm actually quite curious, and I'm like, oh, really? So let me listen to some of the music you like.
right.
That's really interesting, because can you tell me what are you, so how do you listen? So if I meet someone who likes music that I never listened to, but I listen to it and then kind of through their ears, if you know what I mean, like,
Right.
what do you hear? Then you hear it differently. You're like, oh, I get it. Yeah, okay, because it reminds you of something. Because a lot of music is emotional, if not all, but it reminds you of something, or it has sort of a. And actually, it makes me think of something you shared, Morgan, the other day, because you shared a music and a clip actually on.
Yeah, a country song. Yeah.
Yeah, which to me was like, because I don't think we ever discussed what kind of music you like, by the way, but
I
to
don't
me,
think.
country, I like all kinds of music, but it was still like, oh, that's like it was a nice song, by the way. I liked it. It creates such an atmosphere and such a like, oh, interesting, right?
This isn't what I usually listen to. Yeah. Yeah. It gives you a new perspective, because we were talking.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it was something from my childhood. So I shared with the group,
exactly.
and it was a country song. And as I was sharing this, I was like, gosh, I feel like such an American right now. But that's also who I am. Like,
Yeah, no, but it's a childhood memory, and it makes you think of something. So it can be something, even it can be something you might. I mean, there's songs that remind me of my childhood that I don't listen to, but if I hear them, they do something for me, they, yeah. So music is such a nice way, but to your point, how you listen, and we did during the one of the design thinking conferences, you conducted sorry, what was the correct title?
433, John
Yeah,
Cage.
John Cage, which is such a so basically that, to your point, if you don't like music, so there's actually it's very, very powerful in the way that the world becomes the orchestra, because there is no sound. There is no sound. Actually it's silence, but then all of a sudden you start noticing, a door being slammed, and birds, in the tree, and people coughing or something in the audience, and the woodwork, doing something, right? So there's such a nice way of saying, hey, actually it's the world becomes, and so do you actually hear, are you actually are you listening to all of that? Because you're not, because you're filtering it, but you can kind of switch it around, and all of a sudden you hear all this noise and these things and the traffic, and and you didn't notice that. So that's also a powerful metaphor for that. So for people, for listening, how do you listen,
Right.
So it's
And the ears are always open. You always get information, even when you sleep. The eyes not, and the mouth not. The ears are open, and that's my analogy to an organization. You every time, every moment, 24/7 rule, you get information, but your brain says yes, no, interesting, not interesting. Hey, power, oh, danger. So the brain decides, and that's something that if we really help people to really listen to what is there, and also telling them literally, I hear you, or I want to hear you, everything. And then we can talk about music again, but it's really about the sensation of, it's also connection, because if we all listen and don't make an intentionally noise, we are all so connected without touching. So that's also, music is touching from a difference, or listening. So that's everything. And it sounds sometimes maybe a little bit cheesy, but it's not. So it's like really try to connect people in many possible ways.
Yeah. I mean, to me, music is the closest thing to magic, because I don't understand it, because it sounds waves, and it enters my ear, and then why first of all, why is it music? Why is it there, first of all? And how is it possible that it creates kind of these emotions, or it makes you feel a certain way? And it's because you can't touch it. It's these invisible kind of waves, which is so weird, actually, if you start thinking about it. But it is a connection, because it's always there. It's always there. And it's really cool that if you start being aware of it, because it's also, like you said, that's actually really cool. It's always switched on. And so your brain will kind of pick up on things that you might not even want to pick up on. Like if you're on a train and someone's on the phone next to you, I don't want to hear it. You're so annoying. I don't want to hear this conversation, but I cannot not hear it. Right. So being really conscious of that fact that, if you want to listen to someone, or you don't want to listen to someone, that you create that environment as well, that you can actually listen to someone. And if you are, if there is music, and there's lyrics, there are words in it, also, that's really, you can't read a book at the same time. Like it's like, right, because your brain, you don't have that control over your brain, really. Especially when you listen to things, it's like, it just, your brain says, no, I'm going to listen to this conversation this lady's having right now next to you. Although you don't want to hear it, I'm going to listen to it anyway. So annoying. You're like, brain, can you cut this? Right. So listening, I think, is a great, metaphor. So anyway, I think we have to stop talking now.
Yeah, but it also kind of came full circle, because in the beginning he's like, yeah, I'm a joiner. And then also you're saying music connects everybody, but it's also through listening. And that's what you also did at the dinner table growing up. Like, oh, yep, they shouldn't talk to my dad today. They should talk to my dad tomorrow.
Listen, he the whole free jazz improv thing, and the Japanese Italian family dinner table in Germany with it's all there, right? And now they're all having saxophones and stuff. So in my head now there's like, I'm going to go to AI, generative AI, and I'm gonna produce this image of a beautiful Japanese family in Italy, being very Italian, playing musical instruments while having pasta and pizza and stuff like that. And then because it's all anyway, that's the image I'm going to sorry, I'm going to do it. Sorry, just
maybe one thing for me, it's and
yes,
because I don't stop with the music. That's only for me the transporter to the music thinking, and I think for me that's the analogy to see actually in everything that you do, see music and use musical terms or musical genres or musical things, or how does improvisation work, how does a conversation work. And for me it's more that part to really help and make a difference in that, having it just the music. So for me it's not the power of music, it's the power of music and the power of music thinking as an analogy to make stuff that's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Maybe a last question, Morgan.
For me,
if you have one.
No.
I have one. No, I just want to know, how do you see the future, Christof?
Future for me,
For you. Where are you
That's
going?
a hard question because
you're working now, you have your own company, right? So you have your podcast, you have your book, you have your, what do you see?
And I'm an educator, so I'm
educated, right?
lecturing
Exactly.
at the University of Applied Science, creative business, which is creative and business. Hey, we have to connect. Okay, so for me, in the framework, there's the one Q called personality, and all the Qs have two sides. It's the being and the becoming of personality. So who you are and who you're going to be. And for me, crazy enough, I was always in the being, never in the becoming, because and that's maybe the link with the doing, so that I always was doing stuff. So I was myself, and in being myself and creating stuff, I became what I am. So when I look to the future, I do what I do. I'm maybe very interested in many different fields, because then I can make connections. But actually, for me, it's more like a state of being, and that's my personality. So when I look to the future, it's like, we didn't talk about what we like reading. So I'm reading a lot of Stevenson and Gibson, so speculative fiction that's in the future. So that's something I love, because that's something I can learn that I don't know here, but I can make connections to the patterns that we use here. So for me, the future is like, it depends on who you are and who you want to be, and who you want to become. And if you good where you are and what you be, don't let others people force you to be someone else. So but be, and being means also doing. Otherwise, you might not be really alive. And if we do this in some kind of I like free jazz, but I also like harmony. So if you do this in some kind of harmony to make it meaningful together for the ensemble or the group or the orchestra or the duo or the solo or the trio, what we do here, let's make it meaningful. And then it will be the future right away, because there will be a tomorrow. So for me, it's like, that's the most important thing. Also trying, if you really listen, you are connected much more with what is already there, but also with nature. And if you don't like that sound of where it goes to, then try to find people where you can come together to make it better. So that's the music thinking analogy.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And Yeah. Thank you for this jam.
Thank you. Thank you for jamming with me.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting you together with you on the stage.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And if
Yeah.
other
Right.
people listen,
Even better.
what can possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Exactly.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Nice.